the teams that are interested in him aren't going to give him the salary that he wants.
Yeah.
Because, like, the top 4 teams, like...
It's crazy. People would...
Even, like, the 5th through 6th teams, like, they're probably not even going to make changes.
What were you about to say? It's crazy that what?
People would choose to not be in the CDL. What did you think I was going to say?
I thought you were going to say it's crazy that the...
But you're a
literally
little different.
Which is true. I mean, Scump obviously did do that, but a bit of a different situation for Scump.
Way different. His career was pretty much, you know, he wanted to leave. He lived a long career, and I think a few of these guys we're probably talking about have probably a few more years left in them. You know, like Scump's done what he had to do.
Yeah, Havoc's the main one that they touch on in this, but it is an interesting thought here for Maniac of. It's crazy that someone would choose not to be in the CDL at this point, which is similar to what those guys were saying, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Like, who would choose not to be in the NBA, right?
Right.
Well, those NBA players can't make more money outside the NBA than they can in, right?
Right. Like, if you're a basketball player who just wants to go make basketball content instead of being in the NBA, and somehow you're making more money on basketball content than playing in the NBA, then a lot of people like LeBron would probably choose that, you know? But it's crazy that someone would say, I'm not being offered what I want in the CDL, so I'm just going to make content instead and make more money off of that.
Yeah, like even like Destroying is probably one of the very few examples. And even he's not going to the NFL. He's going to one of the other leagues. But even he, for a long time, is like one of the few rarities. Maybe he was probably making more off content than he would have been as a kicker or a punter in the NFL. Maybe. But like there's no one else who could in sports franchises, and now maybe like a Pat McAfee, right? He's retired, he's done with football, he has his own freaking show, but those are anomalies.
Colt, if you see this, sorry, I'm not trying to speak for you, but I'm pretty sure he had offers and he just declined them because.
Damn.
I mean, there's
not like what it used to be.
There's a balance between do I want to go destroy my stock and my sanity, or do I want to go rank play every day and have fun and not be super stressed?
It's just a shame that like you could be good enough for the CDL, but you're still just like.
That's how esports are. I feel like in a lot of esports, unless you are the literal very top of the top of your respective esports, you can probably make more money creating content.
Because that's a
huge statement.
This is interesting.
Which is this is kind of exactly what those guys were saying. To be honest with you, the guys who got absolutely roasted on the Drop Shot podcast, where hey, outside of the CDL, like if you're playing in the CDL, you can't really make content the same way because you're super busy. You're always scrimming. You're always having to be stressed out about your performance. You're going to majors. You're traveling, and you're having to compete and be worried about your spot on the roster. Right? We know how roster changes go at this point. Versus make content if you're a well enough known name and maybe make more than you're making in the CDL. And to Scump's point, you're playing ranked. You're just doing stuff with friends. You're just playing COD every day, you know?
That was the easiest point of their argument, though. They were also trying to argue that the top talent was outside the CDL, which is just not true. Like, they were trying to argue that there was a bunch of top talent who are not in the CDL because they could be making Warzone content, which is just not true. But yeah, like, why would you choose a stress-filled, scrim-filled 9 to 5 or whatever hours they choose for CDL when you could wake up, have your own stream schedule, make YouTube videos, and not have to worry about winning events? But yeah, but Scump makes an interesting point. He says across a lot of esports, I know the exact wording he said, but across a lot of esports, you can make more by creating content than being in that esport. I think there are still, it depends case to case, but on a base level of average esports player in most esports, he's probably right. But when you think about Counter-Strike, that might be a bit of an anomaly because Counter-Strike has so many events, so much traveling, so much money right now. That might be the one I would disagree with. But for a lot of other esports, yeah, I mean, you could name a lot of people who have left the space, become a streamer, and are making more than they once were before.
I think he actually says that all esports, unless you're the top of the top in the esport, then you're probably better off making money as a creator than as the top paid pro, because there's such a small percentage of people who are the top paid pros in each thing. Like, I'm sure like him, Crim6, Clay, you know, like the big names that we've talked about before are making a good chunk of change, but then that fall off right after is probably
I mean, it's not really fair to talk about too, because you talk about the top 1%ers in your league, you're talking about $500,000 salaries, and you're going to win multiple events, or at least maybe some events, or place really well. And the fall off in the CDL from top salaries to mid salaries, we're talking about potentially hundreds of thousands to maybe 60 grand. So it's like, it's not really, it's tough to debate.
Also, like Scump, I have to imagine is making more as a creator now, right?
He's got to be, right? Like, because no offense, winning's freaking hard, but he did have a hefty salary, but he's probably still on salary. And now with
true, with all
100,000 viewers per event.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I could be in the NBA, but I'd rather.
I'd
rather do and one.
Think about the NFL. The casters on the NFL, like unless you're like a literal tier 1 quarterback getting paid $28 million or more a year, like Stephen A. Smith, they probably get like $10 million a year. Brock Purdy's making like $600,000 a year right now, and he's going to the Super Bowl. He's going to get paid when his rookie contract's up. But like, still, if you're not like top of the top, the casters and stuff, the personalities, they probably come close to what some of the players are making.
So you're not returning, is what you're saying?
No.
But could you?
I almost did this past year. There was a chance.
Yeah.
I will say there's a bit of a skew for his comparison too, because like this is always going to depend how you approach this. But comparing like Brock Purdy, he's also an anomaly. He's on his rookie contract, making $800K a year, going to the Super Bowl, and then you're comparing him to the top talent in the space, which is Stephen A. Smith, who is probably one of the top earners in the space. And the skew of like the number of talent in sports compared to the number of players, like I would imagine is far fewer. So it's tough to make the direct comparison. But I think overall the debate of being like, if you are a top esports player, dependent on the esport you're in, would you rather be a streamer and creator or an actual pro player? And for the Call of Duty League, we're going to be seeing a lot of these top talent and these older generation players retire and make more, which is awesome. But there will be that balance of there can only be so many players who can become streamers or talent and try and make more than they are on the CDL. But when you're comparing the CDL of a minimum salary 60K, yes, a lot of these guys are smart enough to be able to make 60K a year doing something else.
Just crazy to hear Scump say it. You know, a lot of these things like we'll talk about, but now people are like, even Scump being like, you're probably better off making content. It's like, dang,
the thing is,
rough.
Anything that they say, anything that we say, there will always be counter arguments for. There's no perfect argument for this. So like there's things that can always be agree with or disagree with for a variety of reasons, just so everyone knows. Like, there's no set one-all answer. Like, you could name so many use cases across esports of players who could make it work, but they're deciding because they want to just win, but they're also making money. Like, I look at it, so any member of FaZe CS, like Rops could be the #1 streamer in CS if he wanted to quit today.
Right.
But he wants to win. Like, he just wants to win. He wants to compete. He wants to win. But also by saying that, Rops is making unbelievable money by winning and doing very well and having a salary. So I just don't think he's done competing yet. And then you could do the same for like Simp, Cell, Abizi. Like they win. But could they be #1 streamers? Yeah. But would they have a hard time making as much as they're making by being streamers because they make so much in the CDL?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a different kind of stress almost of like keeping up with viewership and stuff. Versus keeping up with competitive results. So if you have the competitive results and you're going to keep winning and you're going to keep your spot no matter what, and you're like a notorious enough player, like Scump honestly could have been on any roster for a very long time and been fine if he was willing to switch off of Optic, obviously. But the better choice for him was to stay on Optic and to become a creator. He's going to be able to maintain that brand, get paid a lot, and make a lot. But for these guys like Rops, like it's probably easier for him to be good than it is for him to maintain viewership all the time, you know?
It's like you're already at that level. Why would you leave? And for Scump, I think you could argue it's like, okay, he's still at that level, right? But he's towards the tail end of his career. You can't argue that. And so he's saying, okay, I can stay in the league and make a salary and have the stress of needing to freaking win and perform, or I can retire and have 100,000 viewers on all of the events that I watch. So not everyone is in the position that Scump is in to like leave the league and already be set, which obviously he's earned his way, right? But I don't know. It's like a never-ending debate on these kind of topics, but it's definitely an interesting one. But yeah, it's such a widespread debate when you bring in sports versus esports versus all these things. But it's an enjoyable topic. But there's just so many refutes to be made